Hey guys, this is the MMA breakdown back with my predictions for UFC Fight Night 77, Belfort versus Henderson 3, taking place on November 7th in Sao Paulo, Brazil. And I think this is a pretty good card, actually. Not down on it like I usually am with a lot of the other international fight night cards on FS1. Not a lot going on the preliminary cards that I'm really excited about, but the six fight main card I do think is really good. A lot of good prospects, guys who have a lot of potential, I think. And then, the main event is, you know, I don't think it's relevant, but, it'll be fun at least. And then the co main event, you have Glover Teixeira coming back, so that's really a high quality fight. So good main card, not such a great prelim card, but overall I'd say it's a better than average, pretty good card. All right, starting off with the UFC Fight Pass preliminary card. And actually, I'm going to do the Kevin Souza versus Chaz Skelly fight first. I don't know if this is going to be on the Fight Pass card on Wikipedia. It has it listed as an announced bout, but it doesn't show its placing on the card, so I don't know where this is going to fall. But Souza versus Skelly, I have to go with Souza here. This guy's riding big momentum. He's on a roll. Knocking out Katsunori Kikuno in his last fight in the first round, just blitzing him. Had a similar finish over Mark Ediva in his previous fight. The guy just has huge firepower, and he jumps on guys when they're hurt. He's not a great technical striker, but it doesn't really matter because he's so aggressive and has such big power. Chaz Skelly, kind of a different style of wrestler, has shown some submission ability. Got a finish over Jim Ehlers in his last fight, although that was a bit controversial. I think he started it off with a knee when Ehlers' hand was touching the ground, but overall I would say he is not a good striker. That last fight against Ehlers, before he got the finish, was tagged a few times throughout the fight. It was kind of a sloppy brawl, and visually his hands look very kind of rudimentary. He doesn't have great form on his strikes, but I don't see him being able to impose his wrestling game on Souza. He had trouble with Sean Soriano. It was a short notice fight. I was able to take him down throughout the fight, but struggled to keep him down. Soriano got up a lot, and had him really gassed at the end. I'm gonna go with Souza here, riding the momentum. He has a big power. Scully likes to get into these brawls, and if he does what he did in his last fight against Ehlers, against Souza here, I think Souza is gonna have no trouble catching him. If Skelly can make it a wrestling match, we'll see how that goes. I think he could have the advantage there, but I just don't see him being able to do that for 3 rounds. So going with Souza, I think he gets another finish. All right, onto the Fight Pass prelim card at flyweight. Bruno Rodrigues, also known as Bruno Correa, versus Mateus Nicolau Pereira. 2 contestants from Tough Brazil 4, the latest season of Tough Brazil. And Bruno Correa, I think, was definitely more of a standout on the show. He was finished in a semifinal fight by the eventual winner, Reginaldo Vieira. But I think in his fight to get into the house, he had a spinning back kick knockout, had a submission in his first fight, whereas Mateus Nicolau had some pretty close decisions where he wasn't too dominant against, I don't remember his opponents, but won the first fight and then lost the second one to Delano Lopez, who fought in the finale. Both of those were kind of, like I said, kind of lackluster decision fights. Rodrigues, even though he got finished on the show, I think he's far more aggressive, has a more unorthodox techniques, goes for the big fight-ending shots. Got a finish on the show, so got to go with Bruno Correa. Or Bruno Rodrigues. All right, next up at bantamweight, Pedro Munhoz versus Jimmy Rivera. This is actually a hot fight. I think this is a great matchup. Two guys with momentum in the division, both still pretty green in the UFC. Rivera coming off of his debut knockout win over Marcus Brimage. I was hearing the rumblings about this guy, but I didn't expect him at all to beat Brimage, a guy who was on tough and has been in the UFC for a while, had been in there for a while at that point, and Rivera just came in and smoked him. Showed good boxing, and the fight-ending sequence, had big power and just chased him down. It was great. Pedro Munhoz, though, I just think seems like a higher level athlete, has a higher level of finishing ability. This guy ran through Matt Hobar in the first round, finishing him with strikes, and then against Jared Sanders in his last fight, submitted him off of the takedown attempt with a guillotine. I think that was also in the first round, and competed well against Rafael Sunsao in his debut fight in the UFC, which was very impressive, a really tall order, and he didn't get blown out of the water. So Munhoz, I think, is the guy with more potential here, better athlete, I think, and seems like both guys seem to be good finishers, but I have to go with Munhoz. I just think he seems like the guy who's going to go farther and has more raw athleticism and more raw finishing ability. So going with Munhoz, but Rivera looked really good and could be close, I guess. All right, next up at welterweight, Viscardi Andrade versus Ghassan Umalatov. I have to go with Andrade here. Guy from Tough Brazil, what was it? Tough Brazil 3, I think. 2, maybe. Tough Brazil 2. And lost to William Macario, and the house got finished. But in the UFC, finished another tough vet, Bristol Marunde, very easily in the first round. And almost finished Nico Musoke in the first round, but ended up getting out-grappled for the rest of the fight. And he's coming off of a long layoff here. Fought Musoke February 15th of 2014, so year and a half layoff. But Ghassan Umalatov, this guy is just the ultimate low output, clinch lover, grinding fighter. Just doesn't seem very good at all. Had that horrible fight with Cathal Pendred, which I actually thought he won. Did drop Pendred at one point, but his fight against Paulo Thiago before that, where he got a win, it's just the slow grinding, throwing about one shot every couple minutes, and just trying to close the distance and tie up with you, and that's it. I don't see that working against someone as aggressive as Andrade, so that's why I'm picking Andrade here. I think he finishes him pretty early. All right, next up on the Fox Sports 1 prelim card at featherweight, Clay Guida versus Thiago Tavares. I don't know how you don't go with Tavares here. Clay Guida, he's managed to hold on, I think longer than he's kind of worn out his welcome in the UFC, I think. Had a win over Robbie Peralta last time out, had that win over Kawajiri, but you see when he fights the new generation guys, Bermudez and Mendez, they just totally destroyed him. His striking has just resorted to this very sloppy, throwing these low percentage haymakers with very bad form and no defense at all. And his wrestling, against Peralta, was able to get him down, but even there, was able to get him down at will. Couldn't finish him. I know he came close with an arm triangle at one point, but as much as he's taking guys down, there's not really a commensurate payoff there. It seems like he's putting forth a lot of effort into taking these guys down, pushing them against the fence, and he doesn't really get a finish out of it. Same thing against Kawajiri. These big lifts and big slams, and doesn't really accomplish anything with them. So I have to go with Tavares. Lost last time out against Brian Ortega in a back and forth barn burner, where he definitely had his moments. But this guy, you've really seen the big improvements in his game. He's real smooth on the ground. Just compare his fight against Robbie Peralta to Guida's. He got Peralta's back, was pounding him out, and then finished him off with the rear naked. Did the same thing to Justin Salas, has a great back mount. And he's had his moments where he's had kind of these mental lapses, getting knocked out by Shane Roller, not having such a great fight against Sam Stout. But I think especially at this point, Clay Guida is just too far gone. He uses almost no ground and pound when he gets guys down, and I just don't think he'll be athletic enough. Might have a size advantage, but I expect Tavares to have a big athletic advantage, a big speed advantage. Should have a huge advantage in the striking, at least technically speaking. And I think he puts a beating on Guida here. If he doesn't finish him, gets a very dominant decision. So going with Tavares all the way. Next up at lightweight, Jan Cabral versus Johnny Case. Johnny Case is a guy to pay attention to. I've really liked what I've seen from him so far in the UFC. I'm just not excited about this matchup because I think he's going to walk over Jan Cabral. Cabral is another tough Brazil vet. I think it was Tough Brazil 2, same season as Andrade. Jiu-jitsu guy, just primarily a grappler, doesn't have really even serviceable striking. His wins in the UFC have been over very, low-level guys who are far long gone from the UFC. David Mitchell, and, Kotani, I guess, just fought recently, but, he's been he's lost all 3 of his fights in the UFC, so not high level wins. He got a finish over Kotani, but I think if you look at his fight with Zach Cummins, that's gonna be a mirror reflection of how this fight is going to go. Cummins, just being the bigger, more physical guy, was able to get on top of Cabral and completely nullify his submission game and just chip away at him with ground and pound. Case, I don't think will have that same size advantage, but this guy is aggressive with his ground and pound. The fight against Frankie Perez took him down at will the entire fight, and just turned it on at the end in the 3rd round, got the finish with ground and pound. A rare 3-dimensional fighter, has good striking, good wrestling. I don't know about submissions, but his ground and pound is really effective. I love his debut win over was it Tokudome, rocked him on the feet, finished him with the guillotine. He has kind of that new breed style of striking out of Alliance, uses a lot of movement and looks pretty composed on the feet. His last fight against Trevino was doing well on the feet, got poked in the eye, and then was just able to dominate him with the wrestling. So I really like Case. I think he's gonna if this fight stays on the feet for any length of time, I think he's gonna hurt Cabral badly. And then if it gets on the ground, I like him to just hammer away with ground and pound and probably get a finish here. So going with Case for a finish. All right, next up at lightweight, last fight on the prelim card, Gleison Tibau versus Abel Trujillo. This is a good matchup and could be a fun fight if Trujillo if he's the one winning the fight. Otherwise, I think it's going to be a typical Tibau fight. Tibau, this guy's just one of these stalwart veterans that has just been in the UFC forever, and never seems like he's really taking big leaps in his game. He just kind of continues to get wins over newcomers. He hasn't really been fighting the best guys in the division anymore. Did lose to Tony Ferguson. And I do think slowly, he's aging. He's getting slower. His chin is getting a little more suspect each time out. Michael Johnson put him out. I think that was his first knockout loss of his career. Had gone so long without getting knocked out. But Michael Johnson knocked him out. Went on a 3-fight win streak. And then Ferguson put him down in his fight and finished him off on the ground in the first round, all very quickly. Abel Trujillo has the athleticism and the power to do that, but if he doesn't get it done in the first round, which I don't really trust him to do anyways, but if he can't get it done there, I don't think he has any chance at all at winning a decision. This guy's game is not built to win decisions. A lot of horsepower, super athletic, looks like a guy built in a lab. But all that muscle really kind of takes a toll on him. You saw in the Tony Ferguson fight, dropped him right out of the gate and just couldn't hold on. Gassed very quickly after that. And just looked immobile. His biggest win, that went deep in the fight, Roger Bowling, second round finish. I thought in the first Roger Bowling fight, Bowling started to pull away. And then Jamie Varner, showed a ton of holes in his game in that fight. Was in a really wild brawl, almost knocked out himself, and just kind of landed a Hail Mary punch that put out Varner and almost submitted on the ground too. So I don't really think he's rounded out his game. He's got that liability with his cardio. I don't think he finished his Tibau in the first round, and I think Tibau just does his typical slow, methodical, grinding thing, just throwing one big shot here and there, moving forward, trying to clinch with you, maybe get a takedown here or there, and I think he wins kind of an uneventful decision against Trujillo. So going with Tibau. All right, on to the Fox Sports 1 main card at light heavyweight, Fabio Maldonado versus Tom Lawlor. This could be a fun fight. Two guys, though, who are just completely unpredictable. I did call Lawlor to knock out Vellante in his last fight, and I think I'm going to take him to win this fight as well. But Maldonado's the more consistent guy in that he has a straightforward plan of attack, and that's just to come forward and throw his really arrhythmic, funky boxing combinations. Guys have a really hard time figuring out his striking style, and he's able to land a lot of shots because of that. Guys can't figure him out or time him. But he's another guy who's getting kind of old. He's shown some liabilities with the wrestling. Vellante was able to expose him there a bit. Hans Stringer looked like he was going to win the fight before Maldonado just turned it around, but he was getting dominated. He was dominating Maldonado with the wrestling in their fight. Tom Lawlor looked very uncomfortable and hesitant on the feet against Vellante last time out. I definitely thought that Vellante was going to run away with the decision there, and Lawlor just pulled out the win, which is kind of what I predicted because he's a bit of an opportunist and he's a finisher, and I kind of like his chances to do something like that here. Maldonado, he's able to land those boxing combinations, goes to the body a lot, uses that odd timing, but not a great finisher. Other than Hans Stringer, I don't think he finished anyone in the UFC, not since James McSweeney in 2010. So, he's going to let Lawlor stick around, and I think Lawlor can wrestle him, get it to the ground. Younger guy, I think he'll be the bigger guy as well. I gotta go with Lawlor. I think he's gonna pull something out of the hat here again and win the fight. So gotta go with Lawlor. All right, next up at lightweight, Gilbert Burns versus Rashid Magomedov. This is a really hot fight. Again, two really strong prospects. Guys still green in the UFC, but have shown great promise. And this is a striker versus grappler matchup. That's how I see it, anyways. Rashid Magomedov, solid striker, not a real high volume, not a very aggressive guy, but pretty methodical, likes to pick his shots, pick his combinations. His last fight against Silverio was kind of working him over with the boxing, and then didn't put him away until I think it was like just in the last seconds of the third round. And before that, his fight against Rodrigo, that I didn't think was too impressive. Pretty much was in control, but had some moments at the end where he got back in the fight. Looked like he might have rocked him. But if you go back to his debut fight against Tony Martin, Martin got him in an armbar, and he looked like he was real close with it early in the fight, and he was able to defend, get out of it, and pretty much took over from there. But Gilbert Burns, this guy is a high-level grappler, at least for MMA, and has been very effective with it. His fight against Alex Oliveira, where he's just getting dominated on the feet, it looked like he took a lot of damage, and then that third round just came alive, got it to the ground, and had a very technical setup to the fight-ending submission. So because of Magomedov's struggles against Martin there, which may not translate to this fight, but just seeing that before, seeing a glimpse of Magomedov's, seeing his struggle on the ground, and as great as Burns has been there, I got to go with Burns. I think he's going to submit him at some point. I don't think Burns is a bad striker against Andreas Stahl. He was able to get some good shots in. Against Oliveira, he just looked frozen and was completely getting picked apart. But Magomedov should definitely have the advantage on the feet, I think. But I think Burns can get it to the ground at some point and submit him. He also had a really nice armbar over Christos Giagos. But I'm going with Burns. I think he gets the decision. All right, next up at lightweight, Alex Oliveira versus Piotr Hallmann. Oliveira, another guy, I just mentioned his fight against Burns, but looked great in that fight. Almost won it. Got finished in the third round. Then had a real nice win over KJ Noons. Took him down and subbed him with ease pretty much. And then his last fight against Merritt, was it Joe Merritt? Not a great showing, definitely not as dominant as either of his two previous performances, but he did take that fight less than a month after the Noons fight, so pretty understandable that he wasn't firing on all cylinders there. Piotr Hallmann, though, a guy who looked like he might have had some potential at one point, coming back to submit Francisco Trinaldo. I like the win over Yves Edwards, showed some good dirty boxing there, landed some good elbows, and eventually got it to the ground, choked him out, but lost to Gleison Tibau. His last fight against Mustafayev, that was stopped due to a doctor's cut, and I could be totally wrong. With all these fights today, some of them slip through the cracks, and that's one where I just don't remember what happened, but if I can reach far back into my memory bank, I think Mustafayev was winning that fight. But, got to go with Oliveira, the guy who, is the hot prospect right now. And Hallmann has just seemed kind of average, not really making steady improvements. So going with Oliveira here. All right, next up at bantamweight, Thomas Almeida versus Anthony Birchak. To me, this is just another setup fight for Almeida to get him another big showing, get another highlight reel win. Although Anthony Birchak, I will say, after getting submitted by Ian Entwistle in his debut by the heel hook easily, came back with a very impressive knockout over Joe Soto. Just trashed the guy who took Dillashaw, was it 4 or 5 rounds, and hurt him early and just kind of walked him down and put him away. I thought that was a great performance by Birchak. But Almeida, everyone knows about this guy by now. The highlight reel finish last time out against Brad Pickett after he was having some serious trouble, got dropped in the fight. But, I think that was good for him. He's a young fighter, and he was able to withstand, weather the storm, and he was able to pull out the fight-ending move. Super athletic, great hand speed. You saw in the Yves Jabouin fight, just let his hands go, and he's very, very fast with his hands and his big power. He's a brawler, but you can just see the difference in potential and difference in athleticism between him and a guy like Birchak. So going with Almeida here, I just think these guys are going to go at each other, and Almeida will have the bigger power. He'll be the better athlete, have the speed advantage. Going with Almeida definitely to get a finish. All right, next up at light heavyweight, Glover Teixeira versus Patrick Cummins. I'm really glad that we're seeing Teixeira getting back at it. Loved his last performance over his win over OSP. I will say, though, I don't like this matchup. Not just because I think Teixeira is going to destroy Cummins, but Cummins is, or what am I going to say? Cummins is coming off of a win over a guy that lost to the guy that Teixeira destroyed, right? Ryan Bader beat Rafael Cavalcante, and Teixeira knocked out Bader. So I don't really like this matchup. And that's not even what I'm trying to say. What I meant to say was that Cummins he got knocked out by the guy that Teixeira just beat, that he just dominated, OSP. That's the MMA math that I was trying to bring to light here. I don't like this matchup. I'd really rather see Teixeira fight Rumble Johnson. That's the matchup that no one's talking about. Everyone wants to see Bader versus Rumble. I don't know why. I think Teixeira would be a way bigger threat on the ground to Rumble than Bader could ever hope to be. But back to this fight, Teixeira versus Cummins. What can you say? I don't think Cummins is going to, just slowly grind on Teixeira and take him down. Teixeira proved against OSP, he can weather that storm early, which, Cummins is not going to put on him. Cummins had a good showing against Cavalcante, but all the damage this guy took to get to the finish, his eye was just swollen shut. Is all red in the face, and Teixeira's just a way high-level striker, and on the ground, I think he's a far better grappler. Cummins, he puts that size on people, that big body, is able to shut down their guard game and just chip away. But, the best guy he's done that to so far, Antonio Carlos Jr. You saw in the last fight against OSP, Teixeira, his grappling game is very good. He can get to mount, pass guard, take your back, and I don't think Cummins is just going to be able to come forward. He's going to have to eat a ton of strikes. That's how he got knocked out against OSP. And I think Teixeira's just going to make him pay if he just tries to, if all he tries to do is to take him down. I don't see him knocking him out with those elbows like he did against Cavalcante. Teixeira's just the far high-level boxer. bigger power. Cummins' striking game is almost non-existent. And, Teixeira's a good wrestler, too. This guy took down Bader. His grappling looked great against OSP. Did lose to Phil Davis, but I think that was more of a mental thing. But got to go with Teixeira. Nothing more to really say there. Teixeira for the finish. All right, now the main event, middleweight Vitor Belfort versus Dan Henderson. Like I said, this isn't really relevant at all. Dan Henderson, after he lost to Belfort the first time a couple years ago, I thought he should have retired then. And I don't know, it's really weird. I'm going to foreshadow a bit to the Bigfoot Silva Mark Hunt rematch, which is similar to this fight in that Henderson and Hunt are both coming off of TRT. It's a rematch in fights that they lost the first time, and they're both coming off of impressive wins where both guys looked improved, right? Dan Henderson over Tibau, he looked quicker than ever, was able to land strikes like he hadn't done since the first Shogun fight. And then Bigfoot Silva had the nice win over Paleli. And you would think that these guys coming off of TRT with a ban, that would really hinder them, and somehow they were able to get big wins and look better than they had in years. Really weird. Belfort coming off of TRT as well. But who knows what's going to happen in the fight? It's two extremely old guys who probably shouldn't be fighting anymore. I mean, both guys have taken a lot of damage. Dan Henderson way more so at this point, but that last fight against Weidman, getting stuck in mount and just pounded on, I'm sure that took a little bit of life out of Belfort at this point. But I think Belfort is still the more mobile guy. I mean, Henderson, this guy's like 45 almost. He is 45. Belfort, I think, is 38, so he's still 7 years younger. He's the more mobile guy, and did have that flurry against Weidman. Another guy, came off TRT and did something impressive. Who knows how badly Weidman was hurt in that exchange, but I thought that was kind of impressive that Belfort had him against the ropes there, but. Henderson looked quicker against Tibau. This fight's at middleweight. Belfort looked a lot smaller against Weidman. The first fight between Henderson and Belfort was at light heavyweight. I just think it's it's a totally different time now. I think Henderson's chances of being able to catch Belfort have gone way up. But with all that said, I think Belfort just being the younger guy, significantly younger, 7 years, even though he's really old. Being the younger guy, the more mobile guy, I still think these guys start trading. He's going to be the first one to connect. So I got to go with Belfort. But, Henderson really did, I think, looked a lot better than he had since the first Shogun fight in his last fight against Boch. Was quick, was the first one to the punch. And that's Tibau. You can't compare him to Belfort, but I don't know. I just kind of have a feeling like there's this reversal here. Guys who weren't doing so well on TRT, like Henderson and Bigfoot, they're going to have these turnarounds now. So I think Henderson. I don't know. It's just kind of a weird gut feeling that something crazy is going to happen. The logical pick is Belfort. I'm going with Belfort. I think he connects first, probably knocks Dan Henderson out again. But I could see Belfort, him having a negative effect from being off of TRT, being smaller, and Henderson coming at him. So I give Henderson a real shot, but I got to stick with Belfort. And Dan Henderson... I thought he was going to get destroyed by Boch. I picked against him in that fight. I just hate to see this guy take all the damage he has. The Musasi fight, the Belfort knockout was brutal. Even in this second Shogun fight, he took a bunch of damage. Getting slammed against Cormier and getting choked unconscious. And then he comes back and has that win over Boch. I feel like Dan Henderson could get knocked out 5 more times, and 3 or 4 years down the road, he could get another big knockout win, and everyone's going to say he's a viable contender again. So, I don't know. I just kind of would like to see Henderson hang it up, even though he can still knock guys out. I'm going with Belfort here, but I think there's just kind of something weird in the air with this TRT thing. Guys looking good who are coming off of it. I don't think it ends quite as quickly as the first time. I don't think it's as one-sided, but I do think I have to stick with Belfort. But let it be known that I'm giving Henderson a real shot to pull it off here. All right, well, those are my picks for UFC Fight Night 77, Belfort versus Henderson 3. Thank you for watching, guys. I'll be back soon with my predictions for UFC 193, Rousey versus Holm. We have 2 more events in November after that, 4 in total. It's a busy month. December's a busy month, but I'll try to have my picks out at least 2 weeks. I'll try before every event, so stay tuned. And I didn't do it in this video, but I'll continue to track my progress in every video on UFC Fantasy. So be sure to look out for that in my future videos. And I forgot to say at the top, but follow me on Twitter. My link will be in the description. Live tweet during fights always. But thank you for watching, guys. Take care. I'll see you next time. Bye.